Good morning, viewers. Today I am present before you with the podcast on understanding new historicism. Before I begin the podcast, it is advisable that you keep a notebook and a pen so that you can jot down the important points relating to this particular podcast. It is further advisable to use earplugs for better listening. So here I begin. Newhistoricism is a literary theory based on the idea that literature should be studied and interpreted within the context of both the history of the author and the history of the critic. Based on the literary criticism of Stephen Greenblatt and influenced by the philosophy of Foucault, Newhistoricism acknowledges not only that a work of literature is influenced by its author's times and circumstances, but that the critic's response to that work is also influenced by his environment, beliefs, and prejudices. Newhistoricist looks at the literature in a wider historical context, examining both how the writer's times affected the work and how the work reflects the writer's time. In turn, recognizing that current cultural contexts color that critics' conclusions. For example, when studying Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, one always comes to the question of whether the play shows Shakespeare to be anti-Semitic. The Newhistoricist recognizes that this isn't a simple yes or no answer that can be teased out by studying the text. This work must be judged in the context in which it was written. In turn, cultural history can be revealed by studying the work, especially, say, Newhistoricists, by studying the use and dispersion of power and the marginalization of social classes within the work. Studying the history reveals more about the text. Studying the text reveals more about the history. The Newhistoricist also acknowledges that his examination of literature is tainted by his own culture and environment. The very fact that we ask whether Shakespeare was anti-Semitic, a question that wouldn't have been considered important a century ago, reveals how our study of Shakespeare is affected by our civilization. Newhistoricism then underscores the impermanence of literary criticism. Current literary criticism is affected by and reveals the beliefs of our times in the same way that literature reflects and is reflected by its own historical context. Newhistoricism acknowledges and embraces the idea that as time changes, so will our understanding of great literature. Newhistoricists look at literature alongside other cultural products of a particular historical period to illustrate how concepts, attitudes, and ideologies operated across a broader cultural spectrum that is not exclusively literary. In addition to analyzing the impact of historical context and ideology, Newhistoricists also acknowledge that their own criticism contains biases that derive from their historical position and ideology. Because it is impossible to escape one's own historicity, the meaning of a text is fluid and not fixed. Newhistoricists attempt to situate artistic texts both as products of a historical context and as the means to understand cultural and intellectual history. So this was a short podcast on understanding Newhistoricism. In the description box below, I have mentioned the links from which I have borrowed these ideas to understand Newhistoricism. Please do like, share and subscribe to the channel, and in the comment section below, share your feedback or any other question pertaining to this podcast. Also let me know what are the other topics you would like me to make more podcasts on. Thank you for your valuable time. Here's wishing you a great day ahead.